Going live here in just a second. All right, link is up on Facebook. Bear with me here for a second while I just post the link everywhere. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Live Ones. So much going on this weekend. We've got the ALCS and NLCS happening. The Astros took game one last night in a game. The Red Sox led early, but just couldn't take advantage of opportunities and let it get away from them after the sixth inning. We hit our over on that one. Week 7 of college football, and I don't think I can remember the last time we had such a crazy year with so much upending of the rankings on a week-to-week basis, with so many traditional powerhouses going down this early in the year. I mean, 2007 was considered the craziest college football season in history, but almost all the notable upsets and insanity happened in the last 5 to 6 weeks of the season. This year, just in the first 6 weeks, we've had almost 20 ranked teams go down to either lower ranked or unranked teams. And we're not even halfway done. Meanwhile, the list of teams that are still undefeated include ones you'd never expect this far in. Kentucky, SMU, San Diego State, freaking UTSA? Really? 3 absolute nail-biters of games last night. Go watch that finish from the Cal-Oregon game. You think these Pac-12 teams don't get up to play? You think it's the forgotten Power 5 conference? I love these types of games. And we hit our under on that one to go 2-1 for the night, and a nice little 4-2 run headed into the weekend. The marquee game today is, of course, the Cinderella season of the Kentucky Wildcats, going into Athens to run face first into the brick wall that is the Georgia Bulldogs defense. Needless to say, I'm leaning hard to the under in that one. But there are a ton of other games that would traditionally be major conference matchups with championship games stakes. Now there's a whole new intense layer of survival to a lot of them. It's just this crazy upside-down year of college football, folks. Enjoy it. NHL is in full swing. All but 4 teams have played at least one game now, and I think we're getting a better sense of the lay of the land there. We're going to take a look at one of the games happening today. NBA starts Tuesday. It's October, folks. Sports Heaven is upon us. Let's get right to today's action. And after that heartbreaker of a game won last night, the Red Sox need to settle down and get right. And in the postseason, there is no starting pitcher that can help make that happen better than Eovaldi. He sports a 3-1 career postseason record with 1.93 ERA and 8 appearances. But that lone loss, however, is probably the one he's best known for, that 6th-inning relief effort he did in the 18-inning loss to the Dodgers in the 2018 World Series. Helped save the bullpen, got the Red Sox back on track, and that was absolutely the spark that they needed to go on and win the World Series that year. Eovaldi has been great this postseason, just shut down the Yankees in the wild card game, and then looked great in 5 strong innings in Game 3 against the Rays. The Astros are setting up right-hander Luis Garcia to try and take a 2-0 series lead heading back to Boston. Garcia gave the Astros their only loss in Game 3 against the White Sox, gave up 5 runs on 5 hits in 2 2/3 innings. With these 2 offenses, absolutely anything can happen, but I just really like Eovaldi in this spot here. Apart from Jose Altuve, who's had his number all throughout his career, Eovaldi's handled the Astros pretty well historically. Garcia's fine, and he has pitched a postseason game before, Game 5 of the ALCS last year, but just not in this kind of a spot, in this kind of an atmosphere, especially with fans in the stands. Give me the Red Sox money line through the first 5 here. You can get it at even money at most books right now. There are no lines on the Dodgers-Braves game as of right now because Dave Roberts is being Dave Roberts and not announcing a starter. Probably because he's going to use an opener again. Freaking analytics, man. Just absolutely killing this game. So on to Week 7 of college football, and the first game that I'm looking at is Cincinnati and UCF, and the Bearcats have proven that they are absolutely the real deal this year. Following really impressive road wins over Indiana and Notre Dame, they absolutely obliterated Temple 52-3. This is a complete team. The most bone-crunching defense I've ever seen in the AAC. I'll grant you the conference is only 7 years old, but even so. Desmond Ridder is a solid quarterback who doesn't have mind-blowing stats because he doesn't have to. His defense just gives him short field after short field. What Ridder is incredibly efficient. The Bearcats are 9th in the country in scoring, despite being 45th in the country in total yardage. Like I said, short fields, very efficient. Ridder has completed 65.5% of his passes, including 12 touchdowns with just 2 interceptions. Running back Jerome Ford is averaging 6.3 yards per carry and has 8 touchdowns to his credit. You know, when you have a great quarterback, a great running back, and a stonewall defense, you're going to win, and win handily most of the time in college football. You need another team with all 3 of those things, really, in order to beat you most of the time. Prior to this season, if you wanted to go back and watch my American Conference preview, I had this game circled as one of the potential games of the year. I was so excited for it. I love these 2 programs, but life got in the way for the Knights. Their Heisman hopeful, Dylan Gabriel, broke his clavicle in the Louisville game, and that was it for their season. True freshman Mikey Keene, all 5'11" and 180 pounds of him, really struggled against Navy and East Carolina. UCF still has some good offensive weapons. Johnny Richardson is a threat to break a big play at any time at running back, and Brandon Johnson has been Keene's go-to target. They have shown that they can put up points even as depleted as they are, but Cincinnati, they're thinking playoffs now. It's in their interest to put up as many style points as possible and to just absolutely obliterate UCF here. Just give them another feather in their cap for the playoff selection committee if they happen to run the tables and go undefeated here. I would put Cincinnati in the playoffs right now without question. Somebody's going to have to leapfrog them, and if they go undefeated for the season, somebody's going to have to justify leapfrogging them in order to get into the playoffs as far as I'm concerned. So UCF doesn't have any real world beaters on the defensive side of the ball. I think the Bearcats just go off early here at home, really try to make a statement early and dictate the flow of the game from there on out. I'm not sure I like the 21.5 line for the full game just because of the possibility of something in garbage time. But under 2 touchdowns in the first half with how good the Bearcats are, absolutely. Give me Cincinnati minus 13 in the first half here. I think they cover that easily. I think we see an offense even more impressive than we saw in the Temple game. So moving on, and the next 12 o'clock game that I'm looking at is Rutgers and Northwestern. This is a bad, just unspeakably horrible Northwestern team. Without Cam Porter, they don't have a single offensive weapon worth mentioning. 90th in the nation in total yardage, 109th in the nation in scoring. So they're both bad and inefficient on offense. They got embarrassed by Duke, one of the worst Power 5 teams in the country. Then they got utterly humiliated 2 weeks ago by Nebraska, 56-7. And Nebraska, folks, is not a good team, to say the least. Where's that vaunted Northwestern defense that kept them in every single game the past couple of years? 80th in the nation in points allowed, close to dead last in the country, not just in the Power 5, in the country in rushing yards allowed. And that's not good news against Rutgers, whose offensive attack leans very, very heavily on the run. The Scarlet Knights have been opportunistic all year, one of the best turnover ratios in the nation. Offensive coordinator Sean Gleason just loves his misdirection and his trick plays. Rutgers is coming off one of the most brutal parts of its schedule, having to play Michigan, Ohio State, and Michigan State back-to-back. They actually looked really good against Michigan. Their defense definitely went toe-to-toe with the Wolverines all game. But just those last 2 games against Ohio State and Michigan State, they just displayed Rutgers' glaring lack of talent at the quarterback position. Noah Vedral, just not the answer. Knights fans are just counting the days until this highly touted recruit, Gavin Wimsatt, is ready to take over the reins. Unfortunately, it's probably going to be next year when that happens. This game is a matchup nightmare for the Wildcats. I think Rutgers just runs the ball at will on them all day long, controls the clock for most of the game, and that their stout defense just absolutely swallows up the non-existent Northwestern offense. I throw a shade to the under of 45 on the total today. I think it is a low-scoring affair, but the play today is definitely Rutgers -2. Essentially a moneyline bet, but the spread gets you the better price. So moving on, let's take a look at Michigan State and Indiana, and you think the word would have gotten out about the Spartans by now. They're number 10 in the country, unbeaten against the spread. 488 yards and 36 points of offense per game against some tough defenses in Miami and Rutgers. Peyton Thorne has done a great job winning the quarterback position. I think Anthony Russo, former Temple quarterback, is done now. Kenneth Walker is a running back you're going to see in the NFL one day. He'll break 1,000 yards and get into double digits for touchdowns for the season in today's game, most likely, and there's still plenty of season left to go. Meanwhile, Indiana has been maybe the most disappointing team in the Big Ten this year. All those expectations they came into the season with. Yes, I know their 3 losses have come against teams that are all now ranked in the top 10. Yes, I know they're banged up at secondary. Yes, Michael Penix Jr.'s throwing shoulder has apparently been a problem. But they've got way more pieces to their team than that. And to start off the season as flat and uninspiring as they've been on both sides of the ball, it's just really bad. They were supposed to be a contender for the Big Ten this year. Anyways, if Indiana didn't have a prayer against Iowa, Cincinnati, or Penn State, they certainly don't have a prayer against the surprising powerhouse that is Michigan State. Home game or no home game. I think Sparty shuts them down again, just like Penn State did. Give me Michigan State -4 today. So then moving on to Iowa and Purdue, every capper and analyst I know is looking at Iowa in this spot after that magical win against Penn State and saying, this is a letdown spot. This is letdown time. They're going to be overlooking Purdue. 11.5 is way too many points. It actually opened up at 12.5. Everyone's backing Purdue here. And why? Why would you be doing that? First of all, Iowa isn't coming off that win and going on the road. They get to stay home in front of maybe one of the best home crowds in college football in terms of creating an intimidating atmosphere. Purdue scored 13 points in each of their last 3 games against Notre Dame, Illinois, and Minnesota. They couldn't get 2 touchdowns against Illinois or Minnesota's defense. Now you're telling me on the road against, if not the best defense in college football this year, certainly top 3. Maybe Georgia and Cincinnati could give them a run for their money. But certainly, by far, the best secondary in the nation. Purdue's offense is all passing. Jack Plummer does nothing but pass. Their leading rusher, King Duray, I'm mispronouncing that name, I'm sure, but he gets about 10 touches a game and goes for less than 4 yards a carry. Purdue is all pass. They might not even get a touchdown today. Purdue might be kept to single digits against this Iowa defense if they score any points at all. And for some reason, their team total is set at 14.5. Give me that Purdue team total under 14.5 points today. They're going against the buzzsaw that is the Iowa Hawkeyes defense. I think they just get swallowed up and dominated today. All right, and so the last college football game that I'm looking at today is, oh man, everybody's got this pegged as just going to be the most exciting game in the whole world today. Ole Miss and Tennessee. This line is just comical. The total opened up at 78.5. It's now up to 82.5. Everyone saw that Ole Miss Arkansas game and said, well, there you go. Lane Kiffin team, no defense. And yes, if you're looking strictly at the numbers through 5 games, Ole Miss appears to be a one-dimensional, almost Big 12 type team. Gave up 42 points to Alabama, gave up 51 to Arkansas. But you have to remember those are 2 of the absolute best offenses in the country. Ole Miss's defense looked just fine against that powerhouse Indiana attack when Michael Penix Jr. was healthy. Looked fine against Tulane, who's no pushover. Looked fine against Louisville, who's a great offense in their own right. There's just a talent gap between these 2 teams. Matt Corral is the best quarterback in the country right now. Henry Parrish has been solid shouldering the load at running back ever since Jerry and Ely went down with a concussion in the Alabama game. Dontario Drummond has stepped right into that number 1 receiver role after Elijah Moore got drafted by the Jets. Don't be surprised to see Drummond in the NFL one day. Yes, Tennessee is exciting. Yes, they're probably going to put up a lot of points, and this will be a fun offensive slugfest. But if you ask me who's going to win in a contest between the best quarterback and offense in the country, putting up 560 yards a game, and for Tennessee, backup Hendon Hooker, it's Ole Miss without a doubt. And you're giving me Ole Miss at -1.5 points? I'm jumping all over that. Give me Ole Miss -1.5. That is my final college play for the day. Now it is on to hockey. I love me some hockey season. So happy that it's back. And the game that I'm looking at today is the Canucks and the Red Wings. The Canucks are going through a torture chamber of a road trip to start the season, playing their 3rd game in 4 nights. They managed to beat the Flyers in a shootout last night in a game that they pretty much gave away at the end. Jaroslav Halak is going to start the 2nd night of the back-to-back set in goal for the Canucks, and that's bad news for Vancouver in this spot. Halak looked terrible virtually every time he got the start last season, putting up the 2nd worst save percentage of his career. The Canucks defense certainly isn't going to offer him any relief if the first 2 games of the year are any indication. Vancouver, like we said last night, blew a 4-2 lead against the Flyers with 3 minutes left in the game, and that's after getting outplayed by Edmonton for virtually the whole game in the opener. Meanwhile, the Red Wings lost a heartbreaker to the defending Stanley Cup champion Lightning after leading 6-3 with less than 7 minutes to go on Thursday. They blew a 3-goal lead before eventually losing in overtime. But still, you don't put up 6 goals against Andrei Vasilevsky That's the mark of an incredibly efficient offense because Vasilevsky doesn't give you a whole ton of chances. I like both of these offenses. I think they're both capable of putting up tons of goals. And I'm wary of both of these goalies, quite frankly. This is a pretty simple formula. Give me the over 5.5 goals in this spot. That is my final play for the day. Folks, I hope you have yourselves a great Saturday. This is pretty good. This is the first time I've gone live for one of these streams, and we are just going to see how this went. And everyone have yourselves a great Saturday. Bet safe, stay safe. Follow us on Twitter at Live One Sports. Check us out on Roku and Fire TV, the live ones. Enjoy Week 7 of college football, and I will be back to talk to you about NFL Week 6 tomorrow. See you later.